Khoa là speaking 8.5, được chưa? Rất tuyệt vời, được chưa? Cái sự tự nhiên, cái cách dùng từ mọi người thấy không? Bạn không có dùng những cái từ mà quá khó hiểu nhưng mà cái nội dung bạn construct rất là dễ hiểu mà mình nghe cái là mình tiếp thu được liền, đúng không? Rất là rõ ràng. Rồi, ok nhé.
Thank you.
Rồi bây giờ tiếp nha, move on tiếp. Ok. Did you use a library more when you were younger?
Personally, no, for many of the aforementioned reasons. But from what I know, a lot of people my age did use the library a lot more because we are still on the edge of technology advancements. So stuff like online resources, the internet, you know, it's common now, sure, but a couple years back, let's say 5-10 years ago, it's a lot harder to access for most of us. So when it comes to if we want to develop something academically and just do research in general, we would have to look for the library because that's kind of the only place that uh, allows us to gain access to those kind of materials, which we need.
Amazing. Ok. Thực ra thì giống như tới đây các bạn cũng mới thấy là với bạn Khoa là speaking 8.5, được chưa? Rất tuyệt vời, được chưa? Cái sự tự nhiên, cái cách dùng từ mọi người thấy không? Bạn không có dùng những cái từ mà quá khó hiểu nhưng mà cái nội dung bạn construct rất là dễ hiểu và mình nghe cái là mình tiếp thu được liền, đúng không? Rất là rõ ràng. Thì đó là lý do sao các bạn cũng hiểu rằng, đúng không? Mình nói thật sự với các bạn là giáo viên của forum là như vậy, được chưa? Và cái khả năng mà bạn có thể truyền đạt những cái thông tin một cách rất là đơn giản, rất là mạch lạc như vậy, đó chính là cái mà IELTS họ cần thiết, được chưa các bạn? Đó là cái đặt lên cái yêu cầu hàng đầu. Đó. Và thật ra là nếu mà các bạn đó mà bạn muốn mà nếu bạn học speaking và bạn học speaking online hay là bạn học speaking ở bên ngoài cũng sẽ được gặp bạn Khoa, đó sẽ gặp anh, gặp những giáo viên tuyệt vời khác, được chưa? Thành ra là đó, rất là cảm ơn Khoa vì cái câu trả lời rất xuất sắc. Thì bây giờ sẽ hỏi em thêm một câu nữa nha. Okay, now I want to move on to the next topic. So, we want to talk about schools and also workplaces. So, can you tell me a little bit about your high school? What is the situation there? Can you tell me a little bit about the teachers and the educational environment?
Ooh, okay. I actually have a lot to share about this specific question because my personal history is extremely complicated, especially when it comes to my academic journey. I went to at least 3 different high schools, and 2 of them were in the United States, not in Vietnam, for, well, various reasons. But I'm going to tell you about my experience in the United States. So I would mention my senior year, so that's 12th grade for all of us. I went to high school in Ogden MIUN High School. I think that's what's the name. It was in Utah, USA. And I think I could just go ahead and say that is completely different to the experience that we have here. Of course, it's a Western country, and I can tell you that one of the things that stick with me the most is the attitude of just the student, both the students and the teachers. Just the way that they teach and the ways the lessons are conducted. Not to mention the outdoor activities. It feels a lot more natural. There's a lot more diversity to it. You have so much more options when it comes to what you want to learn there. And, well, not to mention, the tests are easy compared to our standards. So I feel like my high school years were pretty fruitful, and I was fortunate enough to, like I say, go to that kind of high school.
Yes, so
That's what I can say.
nowadays, a very prevalent development where people really invest a lot of money in traveling and learning in the United States. For you, you were previously a student there. So, would you recommend new students in Vietnam to make a similar choice?
Ooh, okay. This is okay. Honest opinion. I think if you feel like your finance situation can afford it, I think it would be an absolutely amazing opportunity to do so. Even if you're someone who is not particularly interested in, living abroad, studying abroad, because think of it like an adventure, a journey, and an experience, because that's exactly what it is. Everything will be different, and it sounds scary. It is, but just most people, because I wasn't the only Vietnamese who went there. There were many others like me too, and we all kind of unanimously agree that okay, so each of us kind of take it differently, but it's such a different experience, and the standard for everybody, the living standards, the studying standard, and just the kind of fun that you would have there with everybody else is so high, because once again, it's a Western country, it's pretty developed. um, it's really high, so you don't really have to worry about getting used to being around the kind of culture there. Also, yeah, the culture there is generally extremely accepting, so you don't have to worry about that too. So I would say it's definitely worth it. I recommend it.
Yeah, so but you talk about culture and you
Mhm.
think of it as something that is more accepting and very democratic. However, I want to ask more about that because it's such an interesting topic. So
Mm.
there are a lot of social issues in the United States, people talking about all the different stuff and the politics. It's very complex. So in Vietnam, we actually don't have a lot of things that is similar in magnitude. So people still think that the United States is like the best democracy in the world. So do you stand by that standpoint, or do you have another approach to that statement?
Mm. Personally, I'm not a political person, so my view on policy, politics, and democracy specifically would be limited. But I can say this: there has been a lot of misconceptions when it comes to how one would view the culture and the whole nation and everything related to it in general. Uh, in terms of democracy, if the states is one of the best, I would say most likely, because democracy isn't always practiced to its fullest extent everywhere in the world. It's mostly still in Western countries. So right off the bat, there isn't a lot of competition to begin with. But I would say from what I have seen firsthand, you know, so like you said, the States is a democratic country, and I don't really know about the kind of jargon that goes on with the bureaucratic processes, but the kind of services and the quality that comes along with this kind of government, well, that's just it's undeniable that it is very good. I would say that. Um, I can't say how much of that is directly influenced by the kind of bureaucratic processes itself, but if just solely looking at the results, the culture and just the kind of quality of the services and the education there, yeah, it's totally just above everything else.
Okay, so that is a very amazing answer from you. And so I think I will move on to the last topic. So I want to talk more about shopping. So what is your favorite shop?
What is my favorite shop? I would say I don't really have a favorite shop. I do have a certain kind of merchandise that I would usually look for. Before it used to be clothes, like a lot of people, it's an easy thing to get into. But recently, I kind of have less of a need for it, so I just wear the same thing every day right now. But recently, I've been directing my attention to something else, mostly involving things that you would put on your motorbike or your car. Most of them are camping supplies, because recently, the economy has been really hard for all of us. So when we had the time, sometime outside of our choice, we don't really, when we have time, a lot of us like to do something just to change the mood, right? And that's what I did too. I decided to invest into equipment for my transportation and equipment for camping and just holding outdoor activities in general. And honestly, if you ask me, I felt like I made a really good investment, because, like I said before, I used to spend the money on other things. It was fun while it lasted. Doesn't really leave an impact on my psyche and just general state of being. But those things that I bought recently, the supplies and stuff, it kind of allows me to uh, hold, like, just get my hands on experience that I never thought I would have done. Like, imagine just packing a trunk full of camping supplies and like get 4 or 5 of your friends in the same car and drive, like, I don't know, 2 hours away from here and camp on a beach. Like, who does that? It's
Okay.
just it's yeah.
Yeah. Nếu mà các bạn đang hỏi là sợ là mình nói có nhiều có bị sao, mà nói nếu mà mình nói nhiều á mà examiner nghe đủ rồi thì họ sẽ ngừng mình thôi. Nó cũng không mất điểm gì hết các bạn, đó các bạn yên tâm nha. Mình có thể nói chung là thoải mái theo quy trình của mình. Bản thân anh á thì anh làm giống như là ở đây là giống như nếu mà bản thân anh đúng không, anh lớn tuổi hơn, thành ra là quan điểm của anh ví dụ tiếp cận cái thi gì anh cũng máy móc hết, được không? Nhưng mà đối với Khoa là cái đó cái sự tự nhiên, được chưa? Cái sự tự nhiên, cái sự thoải mái đó mới là cái mà không có cách nào mình tập luyện được như vậy hết, trừ khi là mình có một cái môi trường phù hợp và mình cũng có những cái tài năng nhất định nữa, được chưa? Thành ra nói chung là các bạn nói thoải mái theo cách mà mình muốn nha. Ok rồi. So Khoa, I just want to ask you more about shopping. So nowadays I think e-commerce has become the most vibrant economic sector in the world. And people really don't want to go to physical shops anymore because it will waste them a lot of time and also resources. So I want to ask you, if you want to go out and buy camping supplies, would you rather just go to the shop or just buy everything online?
Okay, it's a very interesting question, and I think there's more to it too that we should discuss about. So first of all, straight to the point, if I were to buy my camping supplies, I would buy most of them online for the aforementioned convenience, But that's just for me and the kind of things that I'm interested in right now. But for other certain merchandises, I think it would actually be a better choice to go to an actual physical store, because take clothing for example. So clothing, right? Some people, especially those who are extremely invested into it, you kind of get that feeling. The more you're into something, the more you notice the little details, and the same applies to clothing. Some like us folks who pay a lot of attention to what we wear. We look for the fine things like the texture of the fabric, or what kind of fabric the kind of clothing is made of. And you really can't get that information through e-commerce. Yes, e-commerce has so many undeniable benefits, but it still lacks some of the more human touches that you can't really get through the screen of a phone or a computer. You just have to touch it and feel it and see it for yourself. So, I mean, overall, I'd say yes for camping supplies, but it depends for other kinds of merchandises.
Okay, so the regarding the drawbacks of e-commerce, a lot of people think that e-commerce is not environmentally friendly because you have to rely on excessive packaging to protect the products during the process of shipping. So, would you think of any way that we can mitigate the damage that e-commerce inflicts on the world as well as the sustainability of the whole society?
Ooh, that's actually an interesting train of thought. And in fact, recently, I think a lot of people have beaten me to the punch. Yes, absolutely. I think e-commerce has made a really huge ripple in the state of the economy as in general. And yes, it made a lot of impact, most of them not very positively, to the environment. But, a lot of people thought of that too, and they have been proposing countermeasures. For example, like you have just mentioned, some of the biggest drawbacks from e-commerce is the amount of waste that it produces, right? And I have seen some ideas floating around that we could, first of all, change the kind of material that the packagings are made of. Like, if you ever go to a store and get one of them plastic bag that you get for free, a lot of them now are they will degrade over time, So if they are left in the sea or they are buried in the ground, unlike conventional plastic, they will degrade, so they don't become a problem anymore. And there are also some other approaches, such as just reforming the whole packaging process itself, so we can use less for each product. And there's also the process of logistics, because a lot of the waste actually comes from complications in the shipping process. So some of the products, they don't even arrive to where they're intended to be, so they ended up being thrown away, contributing to the waste. So if we can fix that, we're essentially fixing, we are cutting down the amount of waste in general too. So that would be a viable approach too, if you can do that.
Okay, that is the very nice option and suggestion from you. So the last question in this topic I want to ask about is how about groceries shopping? So do you still go to the store or you would order them through the phone or on a website?
Okay. This one's interesting. Personally, groceries kind of falls into the categories of goods that I would rather, see and feel with my own eyes and hands. Because, like I said before, certain merchandises possess qualities that you just cannot judge through mere text and images on a phone, right? For example, you want to order some carrots and some meat. There is no way that you can tell how fresh they are, especially for someone who's strict with cooking like me, of course, like many other people. I would like my food to taste good. And to do that, I need fresh groceries. And although, booking it through an app or something, have it delivered to my house would be extremely convenient, but I just cannot guarantee the kind of quality that I would get. And this is one of the cases where, the quality factor and how you could access it, it's non-negotiable. You cannot access this kind of things through a phone screen or just text. You have to see it with your own eyes and touch it with your own hands. So for groceries specifically, I would still go to the store myself.
Khoa không nhìn bài đâu nha tụi em, tại vì câu này là câu anh tự nghĩ ra chứ không có chỗ nào có hết trơn. Không có bàn ý tưởng đâu nha, không có nhìn bài đâu tụi em, người hướng nội nha. Đó, mình giải thích như vậy chứ có nhìn thì mình nói mình nhìn, được không? Cái nào không nhìn thì thôi, nhưng mà em chỉ nhìn chăm chăm trong đó thì nó khó chịu lắm, tại vì cái mặt mình nó chần dần ở trên cái màn hình đó, hiểu không? Đó, nó là vậy. Ok, được chưa? Nào không có gì hết trơn, cái câu hỏi anh tự nghĩ ra tụi em. Ok rồi. Bây giờ như thế này, được không? Thì các bạn cũng thấy rồi, được chưa? Đó thì Khoa rất xuất sắc, Khoa là giáo viên của The Forum, bởi vì anh mới nói á, nhiều bạn nghĩ là forum là chắc chỉ có mình anh, không có đâu tụi em. Trời ơi, bao nhiêu người giỏi ở đây mà ra đó, anh nói thiệt với các bạn luôn á. Được không? Thành ra là nếu mà bạn nào quan tâm tới những cái courses đúng không, thì các bạn có thể có những cái free trial. Các bạn có thể nhắn tin qua TikTok để cho mình được hỗ trợ. Được không? Thông cảm nha, phải có promotional break với tụi em, được chưa? Đó, như là tới cái giờ quảng cáo là giờ vàng vậy đó. Bạn Khoa rất là giỏi, 9 tuyệt đối read list, được không? 8.5 phần speaking, được chưa? Quá giỏi. Ok, 8.5. Đó. Thành ra là bây giờ anh nói nghe như thế này nè. Thành ra anh cũng chia sẻ với tụi em, được chưa? Thì nói vậy là cũng được rồi, tại vì hành như vậy là ngày mai là nó nói chuyện không ra hơi luôn đó. Thành ra thôi chỉ cái nửa tiếng như vậy là cũng ok rồi. Thì để bữa sau anh sẽ set up ok hơn, được chưa? Để cho Khoa có thể nói thêm, chứ bây giờ hiện tại bạn vẫn đang ở bên trung tâm á, bạn chưa về nhà được nữa, được không? Thành ra thôi cho bạn Khoa coi như là ok đi.